Hello everyone, my name is Jen and welcome to the Book Refuge. I am so happy to be bringing you another weekly wrap-up, and boy, do we have a lot to talk about today. We have 13 books to discuss, some of which were just so-so and also a new favorite, absolutely. But I do have a couple announcements to start this off real quick. So number one, I want to say a warm welcome to a new patron, Angelique B. I hope that's how I pronounce your name. Thank you so much for choosing to support me on Patreon. It means so much. There's always some turnover month after month. That's just how it goes for people. So anytime I have a new supporter, that just helps me so much. It means the world to me. So I hope you enjoy all the extra content over there, and we're happy to have you. Next, I finally took the leap, and if you follow me on Instagram or you check out the community page here, I try to post 3 to 4 times a week on my community page now. Just wanted to put that out there just because YouTube has gotten rid of their stories. Like, it didn't last for very long, which was fine. I mean, there's Instagram stories. Nobody really watches the YouTube stories in comparison, but my biggest audience is here on YouTube. I mean, you guys know that. There's over 18,000 of you, which is insane. It just blows my mind so much. But I do announcements and fun little like conversation pieces weekly on my community tab. That's where I share a lot of things. So if you follow that, you'll know that I took the leap and I opened an Etsy shop this week. So fun fact, which I can't spend too much time on the story because we have a lot of books to talk about, but I actually had an Etsy shop like 7 years ago, and I used to have crocheted items on there. I had big plans of doing that, but I didn't stick it out with doing that, and doing custom orders I knew would become very like overwhelming for me. So, but one thing that I have done, and I've shared this, is that I have taken up small sewing projects in the past, like, oh, I guess it's been like almost 9 months now. I started with wanting to make Christmas presents for some people last year, and I ended up, you know, making them for friends and family, and just like, I have so many of them. And then I was like, well, I don't feel comfortable enough selling stuff yet, but I created a book box that I do for my Patreon with very limited spots where I would have a book included and then some like handmade items involved. But I still just love making stuff so much. I just love doing it. And so I'm not looking to like get rich with the stuff I'm making there. I'm mostly looking to support my habit. That's the way I have it explained. So I basically have these listed for prices based on like the materials, because you'll see with some of these have like novelty fabric, so it is a bit more expensive fabric, but I'm nerdy and I love that stuff. So it's basically, you know, for my like time, the equipment, and then, you know, to make it back there. And so my Etsy shop is just the Book Refuge. I'll have it linked down below. I will also have a discount code. If you use the Book Refuge 10, you'll get 10% off. And here's a few of the items that I have in there. I really only have 4 different things right now. So I make these little keychains here. There are different designs. They're just a little clip-on one. These are really cute. They fit on your wrist. So I have a few of those. I have book sleeves in 2 different sizes. So there's this size, which fits a Kindle or a mass market paperback. I have some like novelty ones of these that will have like Disney fabrics. I just bought some Harry Potter fabric that I'm gonna do. So yeah, these ones fit your Kindle or mass market. Here's a cute one like this. And then I have the ones that fit the indie pub or traditionally pub. So this one will fit. I mean, you've seen it before. Y'all know. People have these. And like I said, I don't have them listed for very much at all. Some cute baby Yoda ones in there right now. Look at this. So, and they all just have inside whatever I had. And then I'm not super good at making these yet. That's the thing too. None of these are like super professional quality. That's also why I don't have them listed for very much. I'm not good with doing pockets or buttons. Like, they're just very basic. But I love making them, and I only need so many for myself and my friends, right? So the other one, like I said, I'm not super good at doing these yet, but I do have a couple of these like pouches done. I use these for my like annotating supplies and stuff like that. So I have some really fun fabrics that will be coming, including some Yellowstone fabric and some Throne of Glass fabric that are coming. But I'll have very limited options for those. So something you can do is, if you don't want to buy something today, which again, I'm not demanding, I don't have huge quantities of stuff, but I will be weekly adding more stuff in. You can favorite the shop on Etsy. That's something you can do. And then whenever I put out new listings, you'll get notified and you'll be able to snag them. So there you go. That is my new thing. It's out there. If you are interested, please check it out. Otherwise, on with our day here. Okay, so we have quite a few books to speak about, like I said. So the first one up was not a great one for me, so I will talk about it pretty quickly. I read Mr. Romantic by J.A. Huss. This was a book that was recommended to me at Book Bonanza. Actually, I went to a panel about narrating dark romance, and this book was talked about. And so it sounded really interesting to me. It's about a billionaire and this woman who gets asked to come do an interview to work for him, only he's not the one who sent it. One of his friends and colleagues is, and he invited this woman kind of to fuck with him, but she actually wants to try for the job. When she gets there, she is exactly his type of woman that he likes to fuck, and so he proceeds to, you know, he's not going to hire her, but he's gonna fuck her before she goes home. That's what he wants. He also has some pretty like dark kinks that he enjoys, so he wants to see if she'd be open to those as well. So yeah, she's also a virgin who's just diving right into super dark stuff. So the dark thing is rape fantasy. So CNC, which if you don't know, consensual non-consent, when you are consenting to a rape fantasy where you as the one being chased and you as the one doing it are both consenting to it. That is what consensual non-consent is. Every time that comes up, people don't know what it means. But there's a difference between consenting to act like you're not consenting and then someone actually being assaulted. Those are two different things. One is a kinky fun time that you both enjoy and you get something out of, and the other one is assault and should be reported to the police. Those are two different things. He enjoys the former, the fun time part of it. But it's always a bit awkward on a first date to say, hey, do you want to do this? So I understood where we were going with this. I enjoy reading those type of books. I really, really do. I've found some really great ones over the years. Bait being one of my absolute favorites by Jade West. But this one was not pulled off well in my mind. The dude was an absolute asshole. He's not someone I would have trusted to have me in such a vulnerable position. He just gave me the ick. He gave me the ick, and I shouldn't have felt that. And then there was a suspense plot that was thrown in right at the end that I was like, what are we doing here? What are we doing with this? So I gave this one 2.5 stars. I mean, it was a 4 on the spice scale, and it does have some kinks that are a little bit more rare. So I'm not saying it's a completely trash book. I mean, J.A. Huss is a good author, so maybe you'd still enjoy it. It just didn't work for me. Next, I finished In Silence and Submission by Jillian Eliza. This is a Dramini fic that, if you love contradictions, I think you might love this one even more. In fact, I ended up giving this book 6 stars, okay? This was one that I'd seen it on Instagram. The cover is done by one of my favorite, like, cover artists who does, not a cover artist, but she does commissions, and she does a lot of Dramini works. This one is a BDSM relationship, friends to lovers for Hermione and Draco. So whereas like Contradictions is like an enemies to lovers, this one is a friends to lovers, and they discover that they have complementary kinks, and the way that they become each other's like perfect like mirror is so beautiful, and the way that the trauma is worked through was so powerful. And the way their friends were mostly all completely supportive of them and like rooting for them to make it a go of it, I just loved so much. Like I honestly adored how on board everyone was for this, except for Ron. So there's that. So yeah, I gave this one a 6 star. It's a new favorite. It's in my top favorite fan fiction. So if you're going to be doing the fan fiction readathon, which starts tomorrow, July 10th, this could be a great one. It's also not super long, which I loved as well. So yeah, this one was 6 stars. It was a 4 on the spice scale. And yes, it has BDSM, bondage, edgings, and more. It was great. There is some previous trauma that we're working through as well. Next, I finally finished the audiobook of Lord of Golden Fury by Lisette Marshall. This is book 2 in the Fae Isle series, I think it's what it's called. I struggled with this one, and I'm sad that I did. I just didn't like how we had kind of separated our characters. So yeah, this is a Fae series. Our heroine is half Fae. Our hero is like half demon. And in the first book, he had kidnapped her because he realized that she was a Fae who hadn't been bound. Like, her family was able to keep her a secret, and so her magic hadn't been bound by the mother, is what it's called. And so she could actually be someone who could help rebel against the mother. And that's what the first book was about her discovering her power, and then the chemistry building between her and the hero. So this is Creon and Emmeline are their names. Now, in the second book, it has a lot of second book foibles that I don't love. We add in a ton more characters who are going to be important. We have a lot of secrets that are revealed, but we also separate the two characters. Not like we've broken up, but like they separate them by space for, I mean, a semi-good reason, but it still was just, it was not a good enough reason for me. And I feel like they were separated for too much of this book, and it made the middle part of this book, which this book is already fucking long, so long. Like, this book was so long, and I wanted it to be done faster. So the ending, of course, the ending brought it back up a little bit for me, so I did end up giving it a 3.5 star. But I was disappointed where we went, and I gave this one 2 on the spice scale. Okay, then when I finished that book, I was feeling really slumpy, and I didn't want to be feeling slumpy because I had some good books to read. So I binged some manga here. I won't talk much in depth about these ones because I'm not super loving either of these series, but I'm trying. So I read volumes 2 and 3 of Outbride, Beauty and the Beast. This is a like paranormal time travel romance where our heroine is brought from where she lives to this time where she's supposed to be able to help birth an heir who can like save this world. But there's 4 different like paranormal creatures who get to try to make the heir with her. So this is a reverse harem, but also she can't survive in this world without their fluids. So she doesn't want to be here. She's traumatized by the fact that she needs bodily fluids of these men, which include them like kissing her and touching her and doing things to her to share fluids with her. It starts with just kissing, but it becomes other things. Also in one of these, there ended up being this, doctor who gets involved who is doing these like kind of like experiments on her, like some sexual things to her to do. It just got weird. It got weird. I gave both of these volumes 3 stars, but they probably were less than that for me. I wasn't loving them. And then I continued with Game Between the Suits, which this one is an office romance. It's the enemies to lovers. And I liked some of the character growth that was happening in this one. There's one where the hero is like sick and the heroine like goes to take care of him. And he's like, "What are you doing here?" She's like, "Well, you were sick. I want to make sure you're okay." So she brings him stuff, and we both know that it's because she's getting soft on him, and it's cute. It's okay. But for this one being so long, like, just not a lot is like happening between them. And that's just my problem with some romance manga. Like, they take so damn long to have anything going on. So anyway, I'm a whiny bitch. Like I said, I was feeling slumpy. So that one was a 3 star as well for me. Okay. Then I read Forget Me Not by Julie Soto. This one comes out soon. I think this comes out July 11th. So yeah, this comes out on Tuesday. This is one I was lucky enough to get a physical arc of this book. I know it's very shiny. This is one I was very excited to read. The author of this book is the same as the author of The Auction, Love Book 8. And she now has a traditionally publishing deal. So she wrote this one. You can tell it has a little bit of like Raylo. I guess she also said that it has a little bit of like Ted Lasso in it too, which I haven't watched. But that is kind of supposed to be the mix of this. Is kind of the like fandoms in this or whatever. But anyway, it also is completely its own story, and it was really beautiful. It is about a wedding planner who is finally getting like her own business really up and working. She's always worked with her mentor before, who's very demeaning to her and makes her think she can't do this stuff on her own. But Elliot is actually a florist, and we discover through this that they first met each other like 4 years ago when they worked a wedding together, and then eventually she started running her own stuff, and something happens between them. And then they don't see each other again for over 2 years. And at the beginning of this book, she gets a wedding that is going to just blow up her business. She is going to be doing this same-sex wedding for a woman who is kind of like a influencer and like very wealthy. And they are friends with Elliot's family. And so he is going to be the one doing the flowers. They want him to do the flowers. And Amma, our heroine, is just terrified to see him again. And so we get her point of view is the current times, and when we get Elliot's point of view, it's the past times. So we see them as they're falling in love and stuff's happening between them, and then we see what it's like in the present time and just how like broken these two people are, and we wonder why they're not together. So this is a second chance romance. It has an absolutely pining hero, over the top, just so there, but he's also that grumpy, like, I hide it, but I also do secret gestures that you don't notice until later type of thing. So people are going to swoon over him. It's absolutely great. I don't have like hard issues with this where I was like annoyed. I knew exactly from just the heroine's like opening gambit in the present time, like what had gone on. Like I just knew why they weren't together. And so when that got confirmed, I was a little bit like, yeah, nothing original. However, the devotion of this hero and the caretaking aspects of it, and the way that the heroine genuinely like is so destroyed about how things went down in the past, like their second chance is really beautiful. It's just that the heroine's ideas about like why they can't be together are that reasoning where you're like, that's fucked. You know? But we're also not always rational, so it's one of those. So I really enjoyed this. I think this one's gonna really like blow up and people are really gonna love it. One of my main issues, and I know I've seen other people playing for it too, the really only like sex scenes happen in the past, because we're remembering, like Elliot will take us to them. There's some really hot ones, but they're all in the past except for one, and I just didn't really like that. It felt a little bit like a cheat by the author, because she was like, I know I need to have some steam in this book, we need to have it, so it's all going to be in the past so that I can drag out getting them together, right? I don't know. It was good. I love, you know, like I've read The Auction. I want to read some other of her fic stuff too. It wasn't horrible by any means. And I think a lot of people are going to like go gaga over that one, which is exciting. So I gave it a 4-star, and it was the 2.5 on the spice scale. All right. Then I read To Love a Scandalous Duke by Liana de la Rosa. This was on my TBR. I want to read some of this author's backlist. I met her at Book Bonanza, and I bought a few books in this series, although this one I just had to listen to it on AnyPlay because I didn't have a physical copy of it. But this one is about Declan and Allie, or Aletha is her name, and Declan has just come home because he got a letter from his brother. His brother was the Duke, and when he gets home, he discovers his brother has died, and possibly in some suspicious circumstances. Possibly that. So now he's the Duke. And he has always been friends with Aletha and her brother. In fact, they were kind of childhood sweethearts before shit went down and he had to leave the country, and was doing business in other parts. So he's been a businessman for the last like few years, but now he's the Duke. The thing is, her father and his father and then the older brother, they were business partners, and they're not on good terms. And Declan is very suspicious of her father and suspects him of corruption and maybe even being the reason that his brother is dead. But he doesn't hold any of this against Allie, which is honestly one of the coolest things about this book, is that though he definitely has an axe to grind with her dad, he never uses Allie as like leverage in that. She isn't being a part of this game. This isn't a, I want to marry her so that I can be closer to him and do stuff. No, they are truly, in fact, like they know it wouldn't be good if they fall in love. She's supposed to marry who her dad like needs her to, that kind of thing. But they're just so drawn to each other, and they have that childhood connection that they want to be together. And so it's really the fact like Declan falls for her despite the fact that he shouldn't. So yeah, this one was a friends to lovers, even though the families are like rivals kind of. So I enjoyed this a lot. I gave it 4 stars. It was a 1.5 on the spice scale. All right. Then I read an arc that did not go over well, and I'm not going to spend too much time on it because I'm honestly getting a little bit of a headache this morning. Sorry, TMI, but we got to get through this review here. So I read One Season with the Duke by Addie DeLocke, and I had seen this cover show up on NetGalley. This was a debut historical romance author, and I was like, yes, please. So I snagged this. And then after reading To Love a Scandalous Duke, I was like, let's just stay in the historical mood. Let's do it. So I sat down to read this arc, and there was a lot of beautiful stuff about this one. This one is a marriage of convenience. The hero is Scottish. His name is Finn. The heroine, her name is Henrietta, but they call her Hetty. And she, in the beginning, is being blackmailed actually into marrying her cousin. He supposedly has some information that proves that she is a bastard. Now, well, she doesn't necessarily feel horrible about this for herself because it is still her parents who would have had her, but he says he has proof that they weren't married before she was born. And this would greatly embarrass her uncle, apparently. That's what she thinks, not what her uncle thinks. That's what she thinks. So she's agreeing to marry this horrible man and to save like her uncle from shame. Let's not, imagine whether her uncle would want that or not. But even so, Finn comes along. He's just made it back, and he was actually planning to court her because he's loved her since they were children. He's now the Duke of his home in Scotland, and he needs to marry someone. And his mother wants him to marry someone else who's Scottish, but he's kind of always had it in his heart that he wanted Hetty, that he wanted her. But when he asks her to marry him, he says, let me help you out. She refuses because she doesn't want to, put this on him. But then her uncle finds out what she's doing and is like, no, don't do that. And he actually helps her elope with Finn. So this first 25% leads up to them eloping, and then they go back to his home in Scotland. So the setup of this kind of reminded me of some old school romances in a good way, right? Like those old school Scottish romances where the marriage happens at the beginning and then the rest of the book is about how she's able to fit into the new place and things like that. But yeah, so she comes up against his mother, who is very distrustful of her, knows that this woman doesn't love her son and that she's only doing it for whatever. And she knows that her son really loves this girl, but that he turned his back on his duty to have the woman that he wanted and blah, 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 blah. And the blackmail is still happening, and Hetty never admits any of this to him and doesn't tell Finn that she might be a bastard. Now, I didn't think this was going to be that big of a deal, and I'm going to do a little bit of a spoiler right here, but I'm not going to rant about this because I want to move on. I have other better things to talk about. But the issue I had for this book is that Finn is a fucking dreamboat for 65% of this book, okay? He is so devoted to her, so in love with her, devoted to helping his clan and his people love her, encouraging to her. They're so sexy together, building up feelings. And then he knows that she's being blackmailed. That's why he first offers to marry her. He doesn't know why. He doesn't push her to tell him why. Then when it's clear that she's still being blackmailed, she finally tells him about what it is. And he blows a fucking gasket, okay? He feels so betrayed, and he doesn't want her to touch him anymore, and he makes their marriage a living hell. And he looks like a whiny little bitch. And it takes multiple people telling him he's being a whiny little bitch, and it even takes his mother he asks his mother, should I go after her, when Hetty has decided to stay in town and get away from him, and she's pregnant by this point. He's like, should I go after her? He has to ask his mom if he should go after his wife. So I said in my stories when I was reading this, in my Instagram stories, I've never seen a character assassination happen that quickly. I was so in love with this hero, and I was convinced that when Hetty finally told him what was going on, he was going to be like, why didn't you just tell me? I don't care about that. No, he does care about it. And it was disgusting to see. It was absolutely disgusting to see. And so he never won me back over. I despised him for the rest of it. and he didn't have to grovel enough, and he got a happily ever after. And I despise that. So I thought the writing was beautiful. I was into how the romance was going, but based on the characters the author had described to me up until that point, there was no hint that this hero would react that way, and to me that's poor character building. I'm not the biggest analysis of story. That's not usually what I'm looking for, but I feel characters in my guts, and that is not how that hero would have acted. Disagree. So I read an arc for this, so I gave it 3 stars. It was a 2.5 on the spice scale. I want to say I'll read this author again since she's a debut, but that was tough. That was tough, you guys. I couldn't believe it. I was so heartbroken because I was having such a good time. I was like, this book is going to be like 5 stars easy. No, it was not. All right. Then I read The Devil You Know by Kit Roca. This is an author duet. I read this book for the first time in April. I read the first book, Deal with the Devil, in April. And this is the next one. This is a dystopian, like there's found family, there is super soldiers and augmented physical things in this, and they're just continuing to try to survive and take care of their people. But one of the super soldiers, his body is starting to reject his changes, and so it looks like he's going to die soon. Our heroine, she has a lot of sensory issues that come from the augmentations that she's had. So she has issues with like intimacy and stuff like that. And I just really enjoyed continuing to read this. I don't have a ton to break down, but they're called the Mercenary Librarians because they actually like create databases of books that otherwise would be like lost. So when they come across books, they load them into these databases. And then think about like if there were no cookbooks anymore, because there's no like internet to look stuff up. How would you know how to make things anymore if there was no way to get that? So they kind of trade in information and things like that. And they've built a community where they help take care of their people. So I love that type of stuff. So yeah, this was great. I gave this one 4 stars, and it was a 1.5 on the spice scale. Definitely a trigger warning for some brutal torture in here. Okay, there is some pretty brutal torture that happens. Whew. All right, next I read an arc for Sincerely Your Inconvenient Wife by Julia Wolf. So this book was wonderful. This is the second book in her The Harder They Fall series, which I had totally forgotten, but I knew this back when she was starting the series. But there was a side character in her Savage You series who's the younger sister of Lachlan Kelly, who y'all know is my prince, okay? He's my prince. He has a younger sister named Saoirse, and he loves his little sister so much. And so Julia Wolf created this adult series that does like spin off from that, but it's under her other name. So J Wolf is what Savage You is under. J Wolf is her new adult books that are college and like high school and stuff like that. Julia Wolf are her adult books, of which she has a lot more of those. But this series is billionaires, obsessed, broody billionaires. That's what this one is. And there's 3 best friends who are all billionaires. They all own different companies, but they're bros. They're all bros. And the first one was about, I forgot the couple. Ellie. No, not Ellie. Elise. And I can't remember the hero's name. Anyway, so this one is about Saoirse and Luca. So Luca is one of the friends, and Saoirse is Lachlan's sister. But now this is 10 years later from where we left off. So when I started reading this one, I forgot that this one was going to be her. And so I was just like, oh, her name is Saoirse. And then we get to some parts of the story where they're talking about her family and the fact that she has a mother who's a state senator and a father who's a rancher, and that she was torn between her 2 parents. It's made her very kind of like nervous about marriage and stuff like that. And then it finally sunk in that, oh my God, Saoirse is Saoirse Kelly. It's Lachlan's younger sister. So we do get to see Lachlan and Elena and their little Kellys running around everywhere. Oh my God, it was so cute. But this is a marriage of convenience, obviously based by the title of this, where Luca has taken over his father's company, which is a motorcycle company. His father had a heart attack and needed to step back. And Luca's taken over, but the board isn't feeling so good. They want him to be married, and so his sister makes him a list of eligible brides, and he isn't interested in any of them. And then when he starts looking into Saoirse, which they have a funny meeting, like this starts with an almost one-night stand in the beginning. She gets invited to a party at his penthouse, doesn't know that it's his, and they end up like kind of hooking up in his room, but then they leave before it happens. And then the next like couple days later, she gets invited to brunch because she's friends with Elise and he is one of the friends, and so he actually thinks she's stalking him, and so he's a total asshole to her in the beginning because he's like, I thought it was just this great moment I'd had, but this woman is stalking me, because she also was hired as a temp at his company. So it's fair enough that he would think she was kind of stalking him because she's showing up everywhere that he's been. But anyway, that's how they have like met. And the more that he like looks into her, they have this like great chemistry together, and it's so fun. And he finds out about who her parents are and realizes that she's used to being in high pressure situations too. And so he asks her to be his wife for up to 2 years so that he can get settled into his company and that they can see him as stable. And then he's like, and then we can get a divorce. And so Saoirse agrees to this marriage because it has an end date, because she doesn't believe in marriage because of her parents. Doesn't believe in marriage, which is kind of the same issue that like Lachlan had at a certain point, but whatever. But also, this isn't the type where they make a deal not to have sex or anything with each other during it, but they have some rules about like not having sex at home, like because they don't want to blur the lines, but it's fun watching it happen. So there's some wonderful scenes in this. So I really, really love this. Luca was so swoony. He was so obsessed with her. I loved how they became each other's just like best friends. They adopt a cat together. There's so many cute things. I don't want to ruin everything, but I really, really did enjoy this. There was some good like BDSM scenarios in here. There was spanking, throat grabbing, and some anal that happened. There was lots of good kinky stuff. I love what Julia Wolf brings into things. So yeah, I gave this one 5 stars, and it was a 4 on my spice scale. I really, really enjoyed it. Okay, 2 more books to talk about, and they were both fantastic. So I read You and Me by Steph Bohrer. This book I annotated for a patron. This was picked for me by Alyssa. Alyssa, thank you so much for choosing this book. I have read Steph Bohrer before. I read some of his Enemies of the State books. He writes, I think, exclusively romance. A lot of it is suspense. There is some like contemporary and like sports stuff that I will definitely be reading. The Jock and the Quarterback, I 1000% will read it. But this one is actually 2 single dads. The POV that we follow is Luke. This whole book is from his point of view, and he has had a tough year. A year ago, his wife died of a drug overdose, and he already had a very like wide chasm between him and his son. He has a son who is 17, I think his son is. He's a football player, and there's just this huge divide between the two of them, and it is breaking Luke's heart. He misses how close he was to his son when he was little, but he's felt like his son hasn't wanted him around. He's not really into sports. He's more of an artist. He's a soft-spoken, like slim, skinny man, and he's just not very confident. He's very quiet, but this man deeply loves his son, and he doesn't know how to connect with him without it being messy and hurtful for both of them, because he's really just kind of stayed away because he thought that's what his son wanted him to do. And so the beginning of this book starts with Luke going to I think is he going to the football game? Or I can't remember what happened, but he shows up and he basically gets roped into possibly being a part of the booster club. And there's this other dad there whose name is Landon, and he is the dad of the son. There's too many names. There's Emmett and Bowen, and Emmett is Luke's son, and Bowen is Landon's son. And so Bowen and Emmett have become best friends. Bowen is a year older than Emmett, and he has really been a mentor to him on the football team, and they have become best friends. And so Landon says, your son's at my house all the time, and you should really think about volunteering. And Luke is really hesitant, not because he doesn't want to be a part of it, but because he's afraid his son doesn't want him there. But he also knows that he only has so much time left before his son will go to school. And with the way that their relationship is now, he would lose him. He knows it. And so there's so much heartache in this of him just wanting his son back, but just not knowing how to do it and not wanting to pressure it, but wanting it to happen. We meet Landon, who is a gay man. He's out about it. Him and his son live in this town in Texas. He's an ex-Mormon, but he still has a little bit of damage that goes with that of he hasn't completely lost his faith, but he feels like his faith left him. I can't even unpack that side of it, but I thought it was very beautifully done in this, in my opinion, as not being from that religion or any of that. I thought that was explored very beautifully for me as a outsider to it. But watching this relationship grow and start as a friendship, and watching Luke realize that he had more than just friendship feelings, and how they navigate that, and then will this mess up where things are with my son now if I have feelings for a man? It was all handled so beautifully. I cried so much while reading this book, just buckets, but also because it was all so hopeful, even when we were going through our damage. I'm stunned. I gave this 6 stars. It is a 2 on the spice scale, and it does deal with trigger warnings of drug use in the past and death of a spouse. And then a little bit of religious trauma too, but not too much. So it was amazing. 6-star read, a favorite of the year, absolutely. And again, thank you to Alyssa for making me pick that up, because I had it on my radar, but who knows when I would have got to it without that. All right, and then the last book that I finished this week was Play With Me by Becca Mack. This is book 2 in the Playing for Keeps series. This one is about Garrett, who is on the Vancouver Vipers, and then Jenny, who is Carter from the first book's little sister. So we know Carter, who's the captain of the team, is going to be super possessive over Jenny. He absolutely is. Jenny is a dancer, and she ends up, Carter as a gift gets her an apartment that is in Garrett's building. So now Garrett is her upstairs neighbor. Garrett is very intimidated by Jenny because she's a very bold and strong woman, and he's just really in awe of her, but he's also pretty intimidated, so he's afraid to be near her. And they have this really funny situation where he's helping her unpack one day. She's lost this very precious toy that her father had given to her. Her father has passed away, and he's helping her look, and he finds this box that says toys. So he's looking for a stuffed bunny, and what should pop out of this but a bunch of dildos. So he gets hit in the face with one of these dildos, and it really kind of breaks a lot of the tension between them, because now they how can you be serious when you've got hit in the face with a dildo? You just can't. And this was such a beautiful relationship to watch unfold. I actually loved this one more than the first one by a lot. I appreciated Carter's antics more as a side character than as the lead. He's a lot, okay? He's a lot. Consider Me is a great book. I really enjoyed it, but Carter, he's so over the top in just everything that he does that he's a caricature, right? He's not, it's just tough. But reading him as a protective brother and a captain and a friend in this, he's definitely more of comic relief and fun than that. And Garrett is so beautiful. There was a really beautiful kind of side bit in here where Garrett has 3 sisters that are 10 or 12 years younger than him. His sisters are quite a bit younger, because his parents actually got divorced when he was little because his father was an alcoholic. And when his father got sober, his parents got remarried and then popped out 3 more kids. And there was a lot of very poignant things in this one for me, of Garrett still working on his relationship with his father, and him and his father aren't close. He thinks his father has a lot of guilt whenever he like looks at him, that he wasn't there for him when he was young. But Garrett is so happy that he's being a good dad to his younger sisters. But then there are also these times where when Garrett sees like a drunk driver do something or a thing happen, that he feels like that could have been my dad who did that. And I myself had that guilt quite a lot as a child. And I know my dad could have killed people in the things that he had done when I was young. And so I've shared my story many times, but my parents also got divorced because my dad was a drunk, and they got remarried barely 2 years later. My dad wasn't sober yet when they got remarried, but he has been sober for 7 years now. So there was a lot that I related to about that side part of the character that was really beautiful. So this also doesn't have a third act breakup, though it does have some, like, it still has conflict. But this was a beautiful story. I think these books by Becca Mack are still too long, like 100 pages too long. But this one at least wasn't so wacky as Consider Me. And I definitely cried quite a bit with this one. So I gave it 5 stars. It was a 4 on the spice scale. This one had toys, really great dynamic play, spanking, voyeurism. Oh, one thing I forgot to mention. I just put out my video with toys. This has so much in here. So this heroine, because they're friends, and then they kind of become friends with benefits. But one of her rules is that she doesn't have penetrative sex. They say, we won't have sex. I roll my eyes. Becca Mack, don't use that. You're having sex. You're giving each other orgasms with your hands and mouths and toys. They're not having penetrative sex for a good portion of this book, because our heroine has some trauma revolving around that. It's not quite what you think, but it also still was quite disturbing what happened to her. But Garrett is just like, oh boy, we can still do a lot of fun things that don't involve the P and the V. And she has a whole arsenal of toys that they take advantage of, and it was amazing. I loved it so much. So yeah, 5 stars for that, 4 on the spice scale. Highly recommend. So thank you so much for watching, friends. Thank you to my new patron for supporting me. Also, don't forget, if you'd like to check out my store, I will have some more stuff going up this weekend. So make sure you check out my Etsy store, favorite the store to get notified when I update. So thanks so much for watching, friends, and I'll see you next time.